Hey, JT, you know what's tough about being a jiu-jitsu player?
What's tough, Joey? Tell me, please.
Well, it takes a big toll on your body, JT.
Yes.
You got to be strong. You got to be flexible. And if you're not, you're really going to be more prone to injury than most.
I hear.
You know what's hard for most grapplers, JT?
What is hard for most grapplers, Joey?
Is that they do too much grappling and they don't do enough time in the gym.
This is true.
So here's the deal.
Okay.
We've actually built this program that is designed for that grappler who wants to spend most amount of time on the mats and only the minimum amount of time necessary in the gym.
We have, yes.
Could be their home gym.
Yep.
Could be the Globo gym. Could even just be some mobility they do on the mats before they jump on into their training.
Nice.
So here it is, guys. If you're a grappler that really wants to stay on the mats for as long as possible, you want to prioritize your jiu-jitsu, but you also know that you should be doing some strength and flexibility, we got the programs for you.
We do.
Go to bulletproof4bjj.com, sign up for a free trial, and you'll get a week free where you can access all of our programs suited to your scenario. We'll see you on the inside.
Nice.
I want to know what shaped you to be the force of a human you are.
On the bus, he punched me in the stomach really hard. And I just started crying, man. I had nothing. I was just sitting there. Classic. Shows up with these fucking sidekicks. You got something for me, Tomlinson? This light bulb went off in my head. He shoved me in the chest. I'm like, oh shit. Boom! And then he's like, this kid knows karate. And I was like, fucking oath. I was just like,
That's incredible that you can kind of trace it all back to that one experience.
bro, changed my fucking life. My guy, there's been some experiences in the past that have shaped us. We've talked about them, but it was brought up recently by our man Julian, asking questions about bullying, because it's funny when people see you now in your current incarnation, they can't imagine you as a young, helpless child being bullied.
That's right.
They're like, haven't you always been like this?
A mere embryo just getting patted around. Boom, boom.
Just flicked. And so it was funny that Julian asked, because I was like, yes, there's definite.
Julian was like,
times.
you guys ever get bullied at school? I was
Yeah,
like,
man.
nah, man, I was the bully. JT's like,
I got bullied. Yeah. But the other thing on that is they say sometimes, bullied kids become bullies over time because you learn.
which, can happen, can't it?
That power can work that way. Yeah. How about you, man? Like, have you got any bullying related stories?
Oh, man, yeah, like I got some shit. I definitely got bullied a little bit. But I want to dive into yours.
Okay.
I think I'm more fascinated by, I want to know what happened to young JT that shaped, I'll have my time in the sun, on another episode, or whatever, maybe later today. But I want to know what shaped you to be the force of a human you are.
Well, I think it was two things. I think it was my mum's inability to realize what is socially acceptable or cool. She had no interest in any of that. So from a young age, I did ballet. I think it was just like economics. I think my mum was like, oh, it's like cheap daycare. My sister was doing ballet. So then my middle sister, Jenny, so she just parked me in there as well. It was like $10 for a lesson or something. Way cheaper than daycare.
Right on.
So I was doing ballet from a young age, which was not cool.
Not cool, but I'm sure it's something you value now.
Oh, yeah. No, it helped me because like,
Person that famously did ballet, Jean-Claude Van
Van
Damme.
Damme. Yes, sir. So, I
finesse.
mean, you get the flexibility, right?
Yeah.
But I was kind of chubby. I was a real chubby kid. I was pretty unfit. But for whatever reason, we hit a point, I think I was about 6.
How chubby, like...
When I was younger, not so chubby, but once I got to kind of 9 years old, pretty solid, pretty tubby.
Okay.
So probably, I would say, for some kid that age, probably 10 kilos overweight.
Yep.
So when you're that young, and I'm not particularly tall now, but I wasn't that tall then either.
What are you, at like 8 years old, you're kind of like 30 kilos?
Nah, more
Aren't
like
you?
50.
You were?
Yeah, yeah,
right.
me,
But like,
a normal
I'm trying to
kid.
think of my 10-year-old. I think she's like 35 kilos.
Well, yeah, she's pretty slim.
She is, yeah. Yep.
All
Okay,
to
yeah.
the side, my mum decided gymnastics would be the good thing for me. And I just, one set of Lycra to another, because when you first go to school, I don't know, depending on where you are in the world, boys and girls don't hang out. Like girls' germs. Or in America, they say like, oh, cooties. Like boys and girls don't want to hold hands. They want to, they want to be near each other necessarily. So I knew a bunch of girls at my school from ballet. And all the boys were like, how do you know them? I'm like, we catch the bus together. And so...
Boys didn't know you did ballet, obviously.
No, I was keeping that under wraps. I already sensed because there was only like 3 or 4 other boys who did it, and there was like a gang of girls. So I got the sense that this wasn't a boys kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when they found out that I did ballet, I just like, Johnny, no friends. I mean, I wasn't, I didn't have a lot of friends anyway, but yeah. And then going to gymnastics, because I was kind of tubby and not in shape, I could do the splits routines and I could do a forward roll, I could do a cartwheel, but man, no core strength, no grip strength. Like I would constantly be the reason why my team lost.
Right.
Like all the other kids in my team, like the boys team, were like skinny and strong and they could do all the routines. I could do the floor routine and that was it.
But you had a fucking killer toe point.
Yeah, you bet. I could, I've been wearing jiffies. I knew what was up. So, and my mum didn't want me to play team sports. So I did try, and my dad wanted me to play soccer, but I was super chubby and not fit. So I was the goalkeeper, taking up as much space as I could in the goal. And then we made the final of like an under 8s cup or something somewhere. And the kid dribbled the ball too far in front and I jumped on the ball and he just kicked me in the face and like dislocated my cheekbone and I had this huge black eye. I thought I was so cool. Like it was real bad. I was concussed. It was like C stars. My dad brought me home and my mum was like, that's it. No more soccer. No, like that's it. And so I didn't really play any organized sports for a long time. And my mum's advice to me when I would get picked on is like, just go tell the teacher. Like, Mum, that makes it worse. So tell the principal. And I'm like, so there's a kid called Steven Steen, who's just like the meanest young kid. He wasn't big at all. He's a pretty skinny, weedy kid, but he would punch me in the face. He would just punch me in the nose, give me a blood nose. I'd be in the nurse's office at least once a week.
Damn.
Yeah.
What was the, why were you a target for him? Was he like, he was like, hey,
we're in the same class.
Fat kid,
I was just
or was
weak.
it?
Yeah, I was clearly, I just wanted to be everyone's friend and I was not cool and had no understanding of what was cool and I wasn't allowed to watch cartoons and, all these things it made me a misfit.
Right.
And, I had one kid, actually a great story about my mum jumping in for me, which was pretty good. This kid, I had Ninja Turtle toys back in the day. Ninja Turtles were pretty popular. And this kid called Robert Crane, a couple of years older than me, he was in year 6, I'm in year 3. And he's throwing rocks and knocking them over. And then he like grabbed one and threw it. And like, I just didn't understand why he was being mean to me. And he started calling me a homo. And I didn't know what a homo was. I was like, what's a homo erectus? Like what do you mean? Like I had no idea. He started calling me all these slurs and names and I actually just didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Anyway, on the bus, he punched me in the stomach really hard. And I just started crying, man. I had nothing. I was just sitting there. Oh. And I got off the bus crying and my mom was like, what's going on? I was like, boy punched me. She's like, which one? And I like pointed and he was like up the back of the bus. And my mum just went, wait, driver, got on the bus, marched up the back, grabbed dude like by the scruff of his shirt and like held him up against the window. I said, do you ever touch my boy again? I'll kill you. Like, whoa. And I was like, oh my God. And he was just like,
What a boss.
Yeah. And she got off the bus. She said, don't worry. I know where he lives. I'll go talk to his mum. And I was like, whoa. I was like, wow, that was cool. Good work, mum. Yeah. Anyway, long story short, I had a few bullies that would always pick on me. And the way they would pick on me is they would leave me out. So when you pick in a sports team?
Oh, yeah.
You know how in the Ultimate Fighter, how they pick the teams? Could you imagine if each team went, nah, we're good.
There's that person left.
Yeah. No, we'll go one short.
Yeah.
You just stay there. So I didn't even get included. I think this is like one of the hardest things for me to deal with it wasn't just that they would pick on me because I was weak. They just didn't like me or they didn't want to accept me in any way. So this is very difficult to deal with because I didn't think I'd done anything wrong. And technically I hadn't. I was just uncool. And yeah, I just kept getting beat downs, man. Kicked in the shins real bad. I don't know if, because here in Australia, depending on what school you go to, you wear a school uniform. I know in the States and other countries in the world, depending on the school, you might not have to wear a uniform. You can wear sneakers and stuff. So we had to wear school shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Those leather clog.
Big hardcore soles on them.
Yeah, Clarks.
Yeah. With that sharp 90-degree edge.
Bro, they're like Doc Martens in a way, but school shoes.
Yeah.
And there's this kid called Bill Walton, and he used to hate me.
I love getting these kids' full names.
Bro.
Hopefully there's some fans out there that are just scribbling this down.
There's a list.
Trawling Facebook, Instagram. Find this motherfucker.
One time he let me play like soccer with everybody. And I was like, oh, great. Awesome. You know, like I'm included. But he did that so he could axe me. He put me on the opposite team and he'd come through and he just tackled the legs out from under me and kick me directly in the shins. He did this multiple times in the one game and just totally bruised both my shins. And by the end of it, I was just crying. Like, I had to like kind of limp off. You know, and I just couldn't handle it.
This is so sad that these kids are just beating down on you.
Yeah, well, I was the victim, right? Because I was the fat kid. Because back then, being chubby wasn't in. Yep. It wasn't acceptable.
Yep.
You know, there was a lot less acceptance. So I was like, oh, you're the fat kid. Like, also had a terrible haircut. And
would you, like, if they would do some shit, would you try and fire back at them? Or were you just like sort of copping it?
I could kind of, I say, oh, you troglodyte. I'd come up with some like vocab. I'd hit them with
some
vocab.
Intellectual shit.
Yeah, burn. Yeah. You ingrate. No, anyway, long story short, I hit a point where I was like, enough. I can't deal with this. I was about 10 and a half. I said to my mum, I want to learn self-defense because I was just getting upset. You know, I was just every day coming home just like hating life. School was okay. I was good with the stuff, but I just couldn't handle how much, how powerless I felt. I think this is the thing. If you've ever been bullied, whether it's by like a boss or an employee or something, you're like, what can I do here? Because I don't, you don't hold up a sign saying, I'm the victim, pick on me. But
basically kind of what happens.
Yeah,
isn't
you
it?
learn over time. They're like, oh, that's a soft target. Let's pick on this kid.
Yeah, the street knows.
Yeah, that's right. So laws of the jungle, right? So I was like, right, I want to learn something. So there was TaeKwonDo at the local school hall. And my instructor, Andrew Johnson, he also had done Wing Chun. And so on the first day, we did our warm-ups and our kicks and all this stuff. And he actually showed us this block, this double hand block when someone like shoves you in the chest, because he's like, confrontations often start off as shoving and very quickly turns to punching. So he's like, you got to stop it before the punching starts. And so there was a kid called Chris Wilson. He was like a house captain, like a sporting house captain. And he was very good at running. He's very good at a lot of stuff. And he rolled around with these two other like just slugs of humans who were like his sidekicks. And he would always come up and pick on me because I was bad at sport and I was in the same sporting house as him and I'd bring the team down. So he hated me. And he'd just go, well, you got something for me, Tomlinson? I'm like, no, I have no money. I have a terrible lunch. It's like tuna and celery on grain bread. Like, you don't want it. Just empty my bag out and fuck my shit up, right? That's what they would always do. Yeah. Just take my bag, empty it, and just kick it all over the playground. It's like, anyway, so I learnt this move. We learnt this like a foot trip. It's like you trip the back of their foot, like they push you in the chest and you block and shove like almost simultaneously. Yeah. We drilled this like 100 times. And then we did like half an hour of horse stance and this kind of stuff, whatever. Yeah. 2 days later, Chris Wilson, classic, shows up with his fucking sidekicks. You got something for me, Tomlinson? Nah, man. Nah.
Yeah, bitch, I got something.
He started shoving me, right? And this light bulb went off in my head. He shoved me in the chest. I'm like, oh shit. I think I could do something. And I was preparing for the beatdown. Like I was preparing to get punched or kicked or something. So I was like, maybe I'll just try. I'll try and fight back, I actually had a piece of information that will work. So he shoved me twice. And the third time he shoved me, there's a moment where someone's pushing you where their energy stops and they kind of move back. And that's the perfect time to be able to kind of do this block, this shove and the foot trip. And I nailed it.
Oh.
I hit it and the dude went like, it's like when you see a really good foot sweep in judo, dude went like horizontal and boom. And he was fucking winded. He was like, and then his friends were like, oh shit, this kid knows karate. And I was like, fucking oath. I was just like, I doubled in size.
Origin.
Boom. And they kind of picked him up. And I was like, holy shit, that little piece of information saved me from getting a beat down. And I was addicted. I was like, this is the shit. I just came home. I said, Mum, I want to go to training. And she's like, okay, but you got to do your homework first. And I was like, fine. Done. Can I go to training? Sure, go. I was there every single day, bro. It was power. And then around the same time, my dad was lifting weights and going running and stuff. So I started to kind of try and do that as well. So it's the mixture of like the push-ups and the running and the sit-ups and the TaeKwonDo shit mixed with the lifting weights that from like 10 and a half to 12 and a half, I went from being a kind of 55 kilo 10 and a half year old to being a 75 kilo 12-year-old.
Whoa.
And ready to bash, ready to fight. Like when I was lifting those weights on the backyard, I'm like, I'm going to show those motherfuckers. I'll do the burpees. I'll do the sit-ups. Like I was so fueled, man. And it changed my whole life because my coach also made me get up in front of the class and like teach and like show the other kids how to do shit because I got good really quick. And I was like, what? I don't know. I'm only a kid. Why should I be teaching these adults? He's like, well, you know more than them. Show them. So that's really how it just changed my whole life, man. Like
that's incredible that you can kind of trace it all back to that one experience.
Bro, changed my fucking life.
Wow.
Because that knowledge is power. Being able to protect yourself is something different. You know, obviously people find breakthroughs in similar ways in terms of earning money to be able to serve their family or getting a degree that enables them to do something with their life, or people getting a visa, or people becoming citizens of a new country to allow them to have a brighter future. If I hadn't had martial arts at that time, I probably would have ended up like Newman off Seinfeld.
Newman.
Just some kind of fat, nerdy creep just hating the world because I was so disempowered, you know?
Got the gig in Jurassic Park at least.
True. It was a great role.
So tell me then, I guess what's kind of, because that almost sounds fairy tale, right? It's almost like, dude, that's the perfect result.
Yeah.
You know, you had this shit thing. It's like a movie. Everyone can see.
But it was never that good because like when I came, when I came to high school, I was not the big fish anymore.
Right.
And I was also really insecure. So I got in heaps of fights in high school fighting seniors trying to prove myself. Almost got expelled.
So
you know what I mean?
So why was that? Why were you getting into blues at high school?
Because they would take our ball. The year 12 kids would take our ball and I'd be like, fuck you, give us our ball back. They're like, whoa, you're a big kid. Are you in year 7? I'm like, yes, that's our ball. They're like, well, you can't have it. And I'm like, I'll fucking fight you for it. They're like, slow down. And I would just fucking kick them and punch them and be like, come on then. And they'd be like, well, I guess. Like, you know, like it was just, I knew that to stop being the victim, I had to assert myself.
Right.
I never want to be the victim again.
It's like I'm swinging first.
Bro, yeah, 100%. I'm not going to, my mom's, don't retaliate. No, I will definitely throw first. I'm not afraid.
Retaliation implies reaction.
Reaction.
I am action.
Yeah, I'm proactive. You know, like passive. I'm proactive aggressive. And I just knew from that stage, even I got a bit bullied in martial arts because there was some adults who used to kick the fuck out of me. And I used to get so angry and sad. And my dad said, well, you have to get better than them and then you'll beat them. And that's, you know, it's just one of those things that's hard to accept in the moment because you think you blame yourself. Oh, it's my fault. Like there's something wrong with me. Well, no, when someone mistreats you, that's a reflection of what's going on with them. But in the moment, you know, you take it on board.
Of course.
Yeah, man. It fueled me. It fueled me.
So cut to like future JT, whether it was later in high school or outside of school. Did you have did you ever run into any of these quintessential bullies again?
I never saw that kid Steven Steen again. I would have loved to see him, but there were a couple kids like that Bill Walton kid. I saw him probably when I was about 24. And actually I just won a national championship in TaeKwonDo and it was in the local paper actually. Anyway, he was still kicking around. He looked bad. He looked fat. He definitely hadn't grown much at all and he looked real bad. And I saw him outside of a shop.
He's like one of those 24-year-olds that's basically at middle age.
Well, you know, he was a couple of years older than me, but yeah, he looked like he was 50.
Yeah.
Life had definitely not been good to Bill. And I was like, Bill, how are you? And he just was like, he didn't recognize me. It's James Tomlinson, how are you? And he was like, oh, and he looked at me and he was like, oh. And I like forcibly shook his hand, like grabbed his hand and like shook it, like squeezed fuck out. I'm like, man, how's it going? How's life? He's like, yeah, I'm doing TaeKwonDo. It's going good. I just won the national championship. I'm thinking I'm going to go to the Olympics, bro. What are you up to? Oh, you're still living in the hometown. Cool. Right. Yeah. Oh, great. Well, man, it's really good to see. I just kind of gave him the shoulder squeeze, like hand on the shoulder. So,
just a little power play.
I'll kill you. So, and I just, you know, life had not been good to that guy. And I think that's the thing. Had you had fantasies previous to that about like, man, when I see this motherfucker, like you know what, I'm thinking I'm going to jab him first. I think I'll play it like this. Had you had, surely. No, man, I'd moved cities. I'd done whatever. But you know, like I've definitely planned out the demise of a few people that I've had negative experiences with, like who've like bullied me, so to speak.
Yeah.
And even in the adult world, I've been kind of bullied, like power played pretty hard. And I don't know if I should share that story, but
Now stay on this for a bit.
stay on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, long story short, I have, like anyone, if you've moved across the world or you've moved out of your hometown, you might come home to visit your family, Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays.
I love that he mentioned Thanksgiving.
Bro, it's a big deal.
Love it. You know, Independence Day, Memorial Day.
Veterans
You know,
Day.
the holidays that we take. You know, guys.
Hey, we have Anzac Day. It's very similar. Hey, man, I was talking about it's Veterans Day
I was
yesterday.
at Walmart the other day and I was ready to
I
fucking...
was having a chat to Zach. Anyway, shout out to our American cousins. Long story short, you see the people who you grew up with, and you can see people who've changed their lives and done different things, and then you can see people who are still doing the same old thing.
Yeah.
And it's never good. And I don't, now I am where I am. I don't wish bad on any of those people. I can see now, like, dude, those behaviors they had then, they kind of kept them and it held them back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I mean,
It's funny. I asked that because like I had, and I won't go into the full story now, but I had like, you know, a bullying incident where a guy basically beat me up and, you know, it really kind of scarred me in a way and I carried it for a long time. And then I had, man, if I see that fucking guy again, and then I had this physical empowerment training, jiu-jitsu. I think I was maybe at blue belt or something. And then I was at a bar and the guy was there.
wow.
And he was with, you know, a group of friends that were kind of, that I was sort of with,
were
or the
acquainted
same
with?
sort of thing.
All right.
And I was like, oh, now's my time.
Yeah.
And exacting revenge was the last thing I felt like doing.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, that's not interesting to me at all.
No.
Like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
But it was just funny because I had played it so many times in my head.
You're thinking about you kind of revenge or come up and sort.
Yeah, and, you know, especially like, you know, you become like strong and you're confident and you're like, I want to fucking... I don't do this. This is like the final scene of it's the penultimate scene because the
big
one
boss.
after this is when I make love with the girl. With Nicholas Marangali. But you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you kind of, we think about shit like in that sort of narrative way.
I look, you know, I guess I've seen, you know, I don't believe in fate or destiny or anything like that, but I have seen things play out with like a karmatic justice that, you know, and you know, I've seen lots of bad stuff happen to good people too. So and I've seen people who are total scumbags just
do really well.
Yeah. And you're like, God damn, why can't they just fall down? Shout out Gordon Ryan. I mean, good luck to you. No, but I think what I've learned over time is trying to come to terms with my own, because I was a really angry kid. I was really angry. Like I had a lot of resentment about how I was treated when I was younger, and then also not getting what I wanted. So I had to deal with that. And part of learning about that is like, you are your own karma. So if you're a really shit person, you have to deal with that. You have to look in the mirror at the end of the day. Or when you lie down at night, you have to deal with your own thoughts. And that's true torture if you are a scumbag of a human. So, man, look, I really felt bad. The three bullies who I had met later on down the track, I was just like, oh, God, your life's terrible, isn't it? You know, like just, oh, mate, it is what it is. You know, like I just leave people to that. But I have always kept it with me that I will not be the victim. I will always be harder to kill. People need to know not to fuck with me. Like my whole persona is, if you meet me, you're definitely not thinking about trying to fight me. Even if you don't like me, you're definitely not going to fight that guy. You know, that's...
Yeah, and so that's still just as, like that fire is burning just as bright in you now?
Yeah, like I kind of took on the Bruce Lee. I was a big Bruce Lee fan. So Bruce Lee is total psychopath as well. He says in one of his books about self-defense, you must always critically analyze the biggest threat in a room. You must identify the exits. You need to make sure your back is to the wall. You have to have already played out the scenarios in which you use a particular weapon to attack said person, or they attack you. What weapon would they use? How do you use your surroundings to nullify a group attack? Like, he said that you need to practice this. You're sitting on a train. Where are people sitting? Where are you sitting? You know, these are the things that he would just be thinking about the whole time. Identify weaknesses. The wrists are small. Attack the wrists. The neck is weak. The legs are not strong. And he would just go...
Talk about all the guys that train at my Globo gym.
But that's the thing. I actually cultivated this psychology that I would want to make sure I was the biggest threat in the room. And if I was not, I would ally with the biggest threat in the room.
Yeah, right.
So usually the craziest person. I always make friends with the craziest person. Because if they snap, they're not going to kill you. You know what I mean? Like they're
together, you can massacre the rest of the room.
Yeah, pretty much.
Walk off into the sunset.
It's pretty. It's kind of jailhouse. It's jailhouse rules. But I've definitely been in scenarios where I'm like, I don't mind that. That's my preoccupation. You know what I mean? Like it makes me feel safer.
Yeah,
by understanding that.
I would agree that we have an obligation to at least have the ability to see the world through that lens to some extent. Like it's a responsibility because most of the time our life is very safe.
Yeah.
But shit goes wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And to kind of be caught completely oblivious, you don't want to be there.
No. And even if I think about like there was one time that I had to be a first aider and kind of save a dude's life, everybody's just standing around. Everybody's just standing there watching a dude die. You know, like you've got to have the awareness about, oh shit, that person's like, I got to jump in, you know? I think it's like not being afraid to act in the heat of the moment. You know, like, and I mean, that could get you killed. There's plenty of examples of where people have tried to jump in and save somebody and they've been killed themselves. But, you know, I guess through training and everything else, I've got enough confidence to feel like, I can jump in and it's okay. Yeah. And also I got really good at taking beatings. That was the thing I learned about myself as a kid because I was pretty uncoordinated. I used to fall down a lot.
Top heavy.
Yeah. I'd just smash my head a bunch. Yeah. So that said, when I came to jiu-jitsu, I was like, I can take this.
I'm durable.
Like, I got the pain tolerance, you know, it's cool, you know, it's no problem. So I think you learn a lot about yourself through getting through these times of sucking. And I think that term, we kind of talked about the self-defense piece before. Awareness and self-awareness is really important.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that I see now, which is kind of just what it is, people obviously having big headphones on, people looking at their phone.
Yeah.
Like everybody is now...
not making eye contact or not even looking at those around them.
Not even having that awareness. Like the lack of awareness, people are so much more...
It's the greatest privilege our modern life has afforded us.
Dude.
At least in, you know, the affluent society we live in.
Yeah.
To be able to walk around completely oblivious to your surroundings.
Dude, it's so dangerous. And I see it and I just think it's ridiculous because I'm quite paranoid in that way. Yeah. So
paranoid or prepared?
You could say it's prepared. It's just like second nature.
Sure, you're not losing sleep over it, but you're just aware of it.
Not at all. Not at all. And I'm always like doing the Bruce Lee thing. I'm always thinking like, how do I? And even actually Hoyler Gracie said this. You can always beat anyone. And he was like pointing about how he would beat my coach at that time. And he's like, oh, he has big feet. And he's quite a big guy. He will have tight ankles. I could ankle lock him. You know, and he was saying like how he analyzes someone like points of vulnerability and stuff like that. And I think even understanding your own points of vulnerability, like if you have self-awareness, you're like, well, I don't have great cardio. I'm not going to run away. Fight or flight, I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to fight, how do I come out of that successful? You know, it's that kind of thinking.
So tell me this, kind of a good sort of concluding point. Obviously, the pendulum swung to a place that is of empowerment and confidence, and you know, like it went from a bad situation to a better situation. If we really make it black and white,
Sure.
Do you feel though that there is a point where the way you see things now and that kind of fire becomes detrimental?
Yeah, it is detrimental. I'm not. I'm a bit of a psychopath. That's real. I don't relate to other people's emotions. I don't get upset when other people do get upset. I don't get happy when other people get happy. You know, if you're not trying to fight me or me, I'm not interested. It's not interesting. I don't get excited for it. If it's not 15,
all right, sex machine.
If it's like, or a bit of both. You know, if it's not 1,500 milligrams of caffeine, I'm not into it. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things I've come to understand about
How do you
myself.
not have a coke habit?
I'm broke.
No, I see JT's alter ego, and it's like a trader in New York, just fucking buy, like working for like one of those, Lehman Brothers or some shit, and just fucking tearing people new ones.
American Psycho,
making bank.
Sydney Psycho. No, I think it's the thing. The thing for me with all of that is, my partner now says to me, you shouldn't think like that. You should be more empathetic. You should X, Y, Z. And I'm like, sure, but I'm not. So what? She's like, oh, because, and the thing is like, I try to make sure that I respect other people and treat them correctly. Like, I don't want to be the bully. That's the irony. I like to bully bullies. If I see someone's a bully, I want to fucking fight them. I want them to know what it feels like to be bullied.
Right.
But the truth is, most bullies were bullied. Do you know what I mean? If you're a first-year tradesperson and you got treated very poorly, by the time you're a professional tradesperson, you might treat the first years pretty poorly as well,
Yeah.
It's kind of the indoctrination. Yeah. Whereas if you're in a culture where you were taught the skill but didn't have the terrible treatment, then you're maybe not going to replicate that. Kind of like raising kids, right?
Yeah.
I want to be a good dad. When I have kids, I don't want to teach them negative behaviors. But what I would definitely do is I would teach them to be prepared for conflict and also know that everyone isn't going to be your friend. They're not going to be nice to you. Have them prepared. Because the worst thing is going into a situation unprepared and then just suffering as a result.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there are people out there that will take advantage of you if you are unprepared and naive.
Yeah. And when I get that declawed bear and I have my 5-year-old son or daughter wrestle it.
Koala bear.
Just
to our American listeners.
Actually, I reckon just put boxing gloves on. The bear can use strikes, but the kid's still got to
You'd be better off going with a roo.
A roo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If here, like, I think you can, and you can
because they do chokes.
Yeah, they grapple too.
They do.
They've got super strong legs.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you want your pocket money, you have to take the kangaroo down 10 times. That's what I would do. My mum wanted me to mow the lawn. I mean, my kids will earn their pocket money through fight skills.
There it is, fam. That's the hero's journey. The true origin story of James Tenacity Tomlinson.
Nah, it's a good thing.
Hey, if you've made it this far through the episode, then I'm going to say you are in an elite group of people, and that elite group of people are the minority who actually make it to the end.
They do.
Now, here's what I got to ask. You've come this far. You obviously kind of like what we put out there. We ask one favor of you, and that is to subscribe to the show. Whatever platform you're on, just hit subscribe. One small gesture, but goes a really long way for us. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.